Okay, this is the third time me trying to film this. I've literally made another coffee, cheeky decaf, but I'm hoping I can get through talking about this just in one go. I thought I'd come on here and share my birth story. It is traumatic, so just a pre-warning. I feel like everyone says that about their birth story, but yeah, if I don't have the disclaimer, I don't want people watching this thinking it's like a really positive, floaty, relaxing story. It's just not. And that's fine. I'm not saying that everyone should be that or end up being that anyway. And there are traumatic stories. There are positives that happen in this as well. But I just had to give that disclaimer from the get-go. For those that don't know me, I am Maya. I am a first-time mama and also a business owner, but I'm not going to go into that. If you want to see more about me, then check out my account, my page, my channel. I forgot the words. And for those that know me, let's just dive into it. Let's dive in. So first and foremost, I had gestational diabetes during my pregnancy, which I will link the video here if you want to see more about that. But it meant that there were certain things that I knew would be limitations going into labour. So my gestational diabetes was managed by metformin, which is a medication that you take in the evening, and it just meant that I was more likely to be, I don't want to say pushed, advised and suggested to give birth sooner rather than later after my due date had passed. So that kind of informed a lot of my decisions that you'll hear in this story as well. So because I had gestational diabetes, it meant that I had more scans. It meant that I also was offered stretch and sweep earlier. So I think it was 37 weeks I was offered stretch and sweep. From 35 weeks, I had already been having what felt like contractions. It was most likely Braxton Hicks when I look back, but for some of the weeks coming up, there were definitely contractions. It was early pregnancy contractions that didn't amount to anything. So when I went in, I had a midwife appointment on the day after my due date, and I was offered a stretch and sweep there as well. So I took that because I wanted to give myself the best possible chance to go into labour naturally. So I thought some small intervention, considering when she assessed, I had already progressed a little. This is going to be very like visual, but she could fit her fingertip in, and it was in the right position, and baby was engaged. So I was like, yes, for stretch and sweep, because I thought, well, my body's already doing what it needs to be doing, and it's clearly been progressing. And then 2 days after that, I had already booked my induction again because of gestational diabetes. Like, they book in your induction. I had that discussed already, but I wasn't sure I would necessarily go through with induction. So I got the call, went in. I basically said that I didn't want to commit to anything until like being assessed. So I was assessed, and they said that I'd reached 1 centimetre, which I was like, great. That's really reassuring. And it also meant that I skipped the first part of induction, which would normally be inserting a balloon and inflating it to start dilating you enough to be able to break your waters. So I ended up skipping that step. They would be able to break my waters with the 1 centimetre. However, they said delivery suite is too busy and there's like a long wait list, so I was sent home. When I got home, I started thinking about whether I wanted my waters broken, because I had the stretch and sweep, and the one before had already done stuff, but I didn't have many contractions after the second one. I had like a lot of movement, I guess, in my body after the first stretch and sweep, which was reassuring. The second one, not so much. So my mucus membrane, mucus plug had been removed. naturally during the second stretch and sweep. So there was more progress, and it was uncomfortable. But and I had Gestational. Honestly, when people say it doesn't hurt, it did for me. Was very uncomfortable, but it hurt. All part of labour. And so I got the call the next day that I could have my waters broken. So I had taken some time the evening before, and also that day I was literally having a self-care day because I was like, I want to relax as much as possible. So I'd done a face mask, a belly mask, I had done my eyebrows, like I was literally just doing the most. I had like cut my fingernails and like was filing them. I was going to do debating doing my lashes because I haven't done them. I've done them once before and I took them off immediately, and I've got some new cluster lashes that I wanted to try, and I was debating doing them, then got the call and I thought, don't have time to be like faffing back with that. I decided to have my waters broken because I had looked up, like done my research, and after having your waters broken, you can end up going into labour naturally, that your contractions increase. And I did think I'd rather have the best possible chance of having a vaginal birth because that was what I wanted as my preference. I actually wanted a water birth, but once it got past my due date, I knew it was kind of a countdown, and I really didn't want to have a C-section. That was just, again, personal preference, was like my last resort. And I thought, if time goes on too much, I don't want to be feeling any pressure to go and do a C-section because of my gestational diabetes and just being too far past my due date. So I ended up not having a great experience at this, like different points in this, but especially at the start. My mum was there, went with me because she gave me and Sam a lift to the hospital for my waters to be broken, and she was there for the waters being broken, and then went home because I wanted Sam in the room with me when baby arrived. But it was reassuring having both, like two birth partners there, which thankfully my hospital allows. And the midwife who was there originally had said, like, what do you want to do? What's the plan? And I had said that I wanted my waters broken. I wanted the 2 hours to hopefully get oxytocin going naturally, and because my body had already been having contractions, that I wanted to see if my body would naturally go into labour, because I know it can happen. And she said, it's your birth, like it's whatever you want to do. And she left the room and then came back and then said, I think that you should go on the oxytocin drip straight after water's being broken. How did she word it? Your body won't go into labour naturally, and you took a while to get here from when we called, which is not true. I'll come back to that. You took a while to get here after being called, and there's 6 people waiting for the delivery suite. So firstly, when I was called, I live about 25-30 minutes from the hospital. I was called, they said, take your time, have a shower, get ready, like get your stuff together and come to the hospital. And I said, is there a time that I need to be there by? And they said, no, but obviously as soon as possible, but like with the process of you being relaxed, as in if you need to get ready, like pack stuff. So anyway, obviously trying to organise me, Sam, my boyfriend, and my mum, and also me just wanting a bit of a moment to just like, I'm going to have a baby. We ended up getting there. It had been, I think it was an hour and a half after the call. So to me, that's not a long time after, especially considering they hadn't said, come in at this time. So I thought that was out of order. And secondly, the 6 people waiting, birth is a long process regardless. So making it a guilt trip that people are waiting. This is my birth, like it's such a big life event. So I was not happy about that. And then also saying my body won't go into labour. So my argument was, sorry, it won't go into labour, there's not even a small possibility. And she said, there's a small possibility, but it's unlikely. I said, I would rather take the small possibility, thank you. But by that point, that was the start. That was the very start. I was so angry that I had to advocate for myself from that point. Like, it was just such a tone setter for the rest of it, which was not a nice feeling at all. And I ended up, there was just so many things after that. And then she messed up. You have to have like a tube for any injections or anything put into your hand. She messed that up, so it was like she injected me twice and then was faffing about with it, and it was bleeding and really hurting. And then she was pulling the tape and it was pulling it. It was so horrible, and I was saying how it was hurting, like what she was doing. Then after that, so that was done. After that was to break the waters, and there was a period of time where she's doing stuff on the computer and admin and stuff, and then breaking the waters. So bearing in mind, I've had 2 stretch and sweeps, so I know it's uncomfortable. However, this was just another level, and shouldn't have been. It felt like her whole arm was up inside me. Sorry, that's so crude, but it's true. She was going and going, and I was sucking on this gas and air, and they're going, relax your body. Relax, you're literally like, you're so far up me, and there's only so relaxed I can be. It was so painful. Anyway, she then said that she couldn't reach, she was saying my cervix was too high, which I know isn't true, because I wouldn't have been able to have the stretch and sweep if my cervix was too high. So I was like, that doesn't sound right. I also wouldn't have got to the point of having my waters broken if my cervix was too high. So she had to get a more senior midwife, and she said that she needed to get a senior midwife, but then was still continuing to push up. And in my head I was thinking, okay, if you need to get someone else, like, stop what you're doing. You're shoving your arm further up me. Obviously at this point I was already angry, I was then in pain, I was not happy. I had Sam and my mum next to me, and I was just like, oh, this is just too much. I think they could see it in my face, because I was literally staring like, what are they doing? Are they going to scoop my baby out? That's what it felt like. The senior midwife came in. It was uncomfortable, but it wasn't anywhere near as bad. She literally went in, and I felt the hot water like coming out. And the other midwife was like, maybe it was my arthritic hands. Maybe I was going back too far back. Was I going too far back? And I was thinking, this isn't funny. You've just really hurt me and set such a horrible tone for the rest of the evening. Anyway, she ended up saying, come back in an hour, and then come back. Basically, I had to come back an hour, and then I had another hour. So I did, and then there was the handover to such a lovely midwife called Jess. So I felt so much more reassurance from that. She asked me what the plan was, and I said I wanted to wait. I think the handover was slightly before I went off on the break, because you can't eat as well after certain points, and you can't eat after the drip. And I had a snack. I hadn't had like food. So that's what I was doing in the break. And they said not to eat too much, which I regretted, but yeah. Anyway, Jess came in and she was like, oh, why do you want to leave it before doing the drip? And I said, I want to try my best to get my body naturally into labour, because it's already been making movements. She's like, oh, that's great. And she literally immediately dimmed the lights, got this like light machine thing, played these, she hooked up the speaker so that then I could play my like spa music that I've been playing in the bath running up to labour, to relax myself, and got the exercise ball out. It was really nice. She really made an effort to listen to what my preferences were, and it was kind of a shame that the first midwife was just so, I don't know, just unnecessary. So both Sam and my mum did say that they think maybe someone, when she left the room, that someone had said, we need the room, you know, can you push her to, or whatever. But it was just not a very nice tone for something that's already quite daunting to go through, that you're about to give labour and give birth to a human. So anyway, after that I had the 2 hours, so I went and got some food. I had a sausage roll, and that was it. And I kind of wish I had had like more food, because actually it ended up being a very long day. So after a couple hours, my body had progressed and the contractions were being measured. So we wanted to leave it another hour. Then it got to 8:30, so 8:30 in the evening, and the contractions had been going three every 10 minutes, and it has to be 4 every 10 minutes. So I was like really proud that my body had done stuff, and I was like, yeah, see, I knew it. But then it started to not be consistent, and just was like, we can either leave it, but you may then have to go on the drip later, or you can go on the drip. And I was like, I'm happy to go on the drip. I just thought, you know what, I've given my body the chance. It's been extra time. It was 2.5, almost 3 hours, and I just thought, actually, just in case I have to go on the drip later, and then it's more of a like, get things going, because you only have so long after water's broken anyway. I just thought, you know what, like, I'm good to go on the drip. So I went on the drip. Contractions started. Contractions were bad. I was on gas and air for a couple hours, and then it got really bad, and I thought, no, this isn't doing it. So I asked for painkillers, and then it just was like, just so you know, painkillers aren't going to touch anything like later on. And I turned to Sam. Sam went and got some food after I had said this, because I was like, well, actually, I need some time. He went and got some food and snacks and drinks, because he didn't have anything, because I had been so against being induced that then they didn't think that I was then going to go in and be induced. But that was just a change, like my mindset of thinking about everything rather than just being anti all these things. I wanted to be open, and yeah, that was my decision. I turned to Sam when Jess left the room, and I was like, these are really bad, like these contractions. If I'm supposed to go through this for another, like, I don't know how many hours, I don't think I can do it. Because I was thinking, you're supposed to stay so still if you have an epidural. And I was already shaking, like my whole body was like this, during each contraction. And I thought, I don't need to be a hero. It was just too much for me personally. How people do it, amazing. I feel like you're incredible. I know that apparently on the drip you can have like stronger contractions. Whether that's true, I don't know. I have only had one experience, so I can't compare it. And I just feel like I got to a point and I was like, no. So I asked for epidural. They came in. We had a conversation about my allergies, which is penicillin. This is a key point for later. The anesthesiologist, I think that's what it is, then did the epidural, which I don't think I had enough of the numbing, like the anesthetic before, because I could feel it going into my back, and then there was a point that it wasn't working, so they had to try again, and gave me some more numbing, and then I didn't feel it, so I was very grateful. But you know, because it was pushing, it wasn't like it was pain, it was uncomfortable, and so I didn't know if I was feeling more than I should, which I was. The second time, not, thankfully. And then I was after the epidural, I felt so much better. I was lying there. I actually got some sleep while my contractions were, because I couldn't feel it while my contractions were going. I think it was then that Sam went out and got snacks, because we're in for a long night, so go get snacks while there's still somewhere open, and also for him to have a breather, because it was just like a lot going on. When he came back, he was actually intending to sleep. While he was gone, baby's heart rate dropped, but then went back up, and then Sam came back with his snacks and drinks, and not long after that, so it was probably an hour after having epidural, or within that hour, they had to ring the emergency button, which then everyone comes in the room, all these doctors, everyone, and baby's heart rate had dropped again, and I was told if it's another minute, that baby's heart rate is still low, that then I'll have to have an emergency C-section. So that's what happened. I was sobbing, so I'm trying not to cry. I was sobbing at this point because that's not what I wanted at all. It was like my last resort. So I was very emotional, and baby's heart rate had been low for 6 minutes, which is obviously very scary. So they were like, we have to do this emergency C-section, we just need to get baby out. Pushed the bed and then said to Sam, like, no, you're not coming, you're staying here, which then led me into panic. I was pushed into the theatre. They started prepping things. They were still monitoring baby's heart rate, and basically said baby's heart rate had gone back to like a stable level, so I could choose to either go back and try to do it naturally, naturally as in how I was going to do it before, or I could still go through with the C-section. And I was kind of like all over the place, because I was thinking, I'm not processing, and you've just taken away my like safe person. They didn't tell me that Sam was just getting scrubs on. They just said that he had to be in the other room. So I was a bit like, I don't know what I want to do. I was just stressed and panicked and upset. And then Sam came in, and he was like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I was sobbing. And he said, well, it's up to you. And I said, I just don't want it to be that baby's heart rate goes again and we're back in here, or at least as well the same panic. So I said, I think I should do the C-section. So I had to sign all these things and everything. And Sam was saying so strong. He was clearly staying strong for me. And annoyingly, even though there's the screen there, the light that's above actually reflects what's going on. So I did see the first cut, and then I was just like, oh, I can't watch. I don't want to watch. So I'm like, was staring at Sam. Baby was taken out and everything went well. Actually, sorry, before that. So everything's prepped. Sam's by my side, and they have to do like a who's in the room, so it's like shouting out the surgeon and stuff. Patient is Maya Kipping, and then it was like, Maya, what's your allergy? And I went penicillin. It's literally on a red band on my right wrist where the I don't know what it's called, but the tube thing was. The same anesthesiologist that did my epidural, that had asked about my allergies less than an hour, if not an hour before, was the same guy in there. And he went, oh, when I went penicillin, he went, oh, I'm just going to take that out and we're just going to flush it through. We've just injected you with penicillin. And in that moment was like, I don't even know how to describe it. I was already panicking that I was having to have a C-section. I was already in a moment of like, oh my God, this is what's happening. To then have your allergy that you don't know how you react because you had it when you were a baby, which could be nothing and could be so big, with baby still inside you, it was just the scariest moment. And I thought, that's not like a oops, that's but anyway, like I said, C-section was done. baby was taken out. Thankfully, I didn't have a reaction. They did say there was like such a small amount, but like there should have been no amount. Like, and as much as the healthcare, like I know everyone's stretched. I know there's no money in it. I know that people work 12-hour shifts, but that's just one of those things that is like a very important thing to just think about. Baby came out, little Trent, and was put, Sam was there to cut the cord and had pictures and was put on my chest, and I just focused on baby while they were doing everything else. Apparently I lost 900 ml of blood, which is a lot, but I was just so focused on baby that I just ignored everything else. I ignored the feeling of pulling while they're stitching me up and doing all that they're doing. I was just staring at this baby boy that I gave birth to, that I grew, and it kind of put everything else aside. As angry and as upset as I was about everything and how everything went, I just didn't care. I was like, I'm okay, baby's okay, and Sam's here as well, like we're all okay. After that, had an amazing, Jess was amazing because she reassured me as soon as we were going to emergency C-section. She was like, how do you what's the feelings that are going through, because I was so upset. And I was like, I just didn't want this, like this is not what I wanted. And she was like, I know, we just want to get baby out, baby's gonna be safe, like everything's gonna be okay. And then afterwards Jess was there, and she literally went on her break when we got in delivery room, which is crazy because she was there from the start, from like 8, and baby was born at 3 a.m, so that was just madness. And then had another amazing midwife showing how to breastfeed and like latch and everything, which was amazing and really just so helpful and lovely. Then I was taken upstairs to the ward, so me and Sam were taken to the family ward. By this point I was very, very hungry. I was so tired. They gave us, in the delivery room, they gave delivery suite, after giving birth they gave me toast and tea, but obviously baby's like crying to be fed, so trying to do breastfeeding while eating toast, and I was thinking, I'm exhausted, like I could literally, like I need sleep, but also baby needs to be fed. So we were taken to the family ward. There was a breakfast buffet. By the time Sam actually got a chance to go get us food, there was nothing left, which wasn't great. And then lunch was quite a while after, so it was kind of like, oh, this is not fun. But they came around with teas and everything. There were a couple things that I wasn't happy about. So that day I was meant to have they told us so much information, but obviously I've been up all night, all the day before, all night, just giving birth. I'm not taking in this information that you're giving me enough to recall it. Certain things, yes. So I had the midwife that was on the ward said, oh, your baby was meant to have their like blood tested like within X amount of hours after being born. Did they not tell you that? And I was thinking, why do I need to tell you to measure within certain hours? I've just given birth. Like I don't have the brain space to be telling you to do your job. Again, I know that the shifts are long and everything, but I just thought that's not for me to do because I'm so tired. Like I'm not going to remember to be like, oh, Buzz, by the way, you haven't done it yet. Like I just thought, no, I'm so exhausted, I'm not really thinking about checking on you to do what you need to do. And then also my catheter was meant to be taken out as well, so then I had to ask for that because it was hours after it was meant to be taken out. And again, it was like, did you not know it was meant to be taken out at this time? And it was like, again, been awake for literally over 24 hours now, like just not really with it. I had naps when we were in the ward, but again, it's not like good sleep. So that was just a whole thing. I ended up having a shower that day, which I'm so proud of. Was given painkillers and everything, and then my parents came to see baby. Sam had called them, both my parents and his parents, when baby was born as well, when we were back in his delivery suite, and waking them up at like 3:30 in the morning. But it was so nice to be like, you know, baby's been born, your grandparents. My parents were already grandparents before, but still, that their grandchild had been born, and yeah, coming to visit and seeing baby that day, which was amazing. I had a shower as well before everyone came, had food, which was like amazing, just because I was so exhausted. And then I was taken to a different ward. So I had said to Sam to go home because the place where he would have slept would have been an armchair, and I just thought he's just as exhausted, well, not just as exhausted, he didn't give birth, but he'd been up the same amount of time, and obviously it's a lot of emotions and everything going through, that I was like, I'd rather him go home, have a good sleep, and come back the next day, because there's nothing going to be overnight. So he went home with his when his parents visited, he went home with them. I got moved to a different ward that had aircon, thankfully, because it was very hot, and I was up and about, basically doing all the things that baby needed, so changing baby, if I needed to go to the toilet, like panicking that baby was like left, choosing whether to leave baby or take baby with me, like it was a whole thing because I was on my own. And that night I was very annoyed. I was meant to be given painkillers at 10:30. That was when they wore off. I felt them wear off. Anyone that's had like a decent amount of pain knows that when it hits that time, they're already gone, like you already feel it. I was told that they were doing the rounds at, I think it was 11, for medication. So at 10:30 I was like, actually no, I'm gonna request them now, like I'm so like in pain. So I requested my medication. 11 came around, like by 11 came around, and I thought, you know what, they'll just do it in the rounds. Then it got to 11:30 and I thought, nothing's happened. So I requested again, and they're like, oh, no one's come around. I went, no, like I'm in excruciating pain, I've just had a C-section. And then by the time they got to me, it was like just past midnight. So 10:30, I think it was 10:30 or it's 10. It was like it was definitely it must have been midnight, because it was 2 hours after the time that they had worn off that I was given my medication. I was so angry, because I thought, I've literally just had surgery and you've not given me my pain medication until 2 hours after. And then the next day, Sam arrived. I got told that I'd be able to be dispatched that day, which I was like, great, I just want to be home. Like there was too many people, it was just a lot, and Trent was crying a lot, and I just thought I would rather be home. And all my blood, because I had gestational, they had to do my blood sugars after to make sure that my blood has like leveled, basically my blood sugars, regulated is the word. And so they had done my blood sugars the day before. However, the day that I was due to be dispatched, they couldn't find it on the system, which meant that I had to stay longer than I actually needed to be dispatched, because there had to be 3, which was before a meal, after a meal, and before the next meal, or after a meal, before next meal, and after another meal, whatever it was. So there was only 1 logged, which meant I only needed 2 more, but again, it was just so unnecessary. So I had 1 done before my meal. I wasn't that hungry, I felt sick, and tired. So I ended up sleeping, thinking that a sleep will reset it a bit, then I'll eat, then an hour after I'll have to have my blood. So it was just so much longer than I needed to be there. Thankfully, that was all signed off. The midwife that was there, I've forgotten her name, midwife that was there was really pushing to make sure that I was discharged that day, and like to go home. So made sure she pushed everyone to basically do what they needed to do, all the checks to be done, so then I could go home, which was great. We went home that day, and honestly, when I got home, I just thought, I have so much relief that I'm home. There were so many things like that I just feel like weren't done. I asked for my bands to be taken off about 3-4 times, just because it was irritating me, and it had said take this off once you've been checked past 8 a.m. And no one came round to take it off until the night. My thing, whatever it's called, I asked for more tape because it was getting caught and was pulling, and my hand was bleeding. It was horrible. I got asked for that a few times, and that didn't happen until, again, the night. There was someone who was on, another midwife who was amazing, who he literally snipped off the band and then took out the tube because he was like, you probably won't need it, because it was just so bloody and awful, and causing me so much pain. So he was great, and explained about passing like you have to pass, after the catheter's out, you have to pass 3 wees to be able to be discharged, which thankfully was fine. No one checked that, but whatever, it was fine. I lie, I think I actually gave them the form. But yeah, that was good, so I was happy about that. There were just some people that really made the experience amazing, like really helped, really amazing, and others that really weren't. Yeah, it's amazing how much a couple people can make such an impact. That first midwife just set a horrible tone for the rest of the experience, and the experience itself wasn't exactly jolly in a way, but yeah. So that's my birth story. If you have any questions, I am more or less like an open book, so please feel free to message me on socials, so Instagram or TikTok at @mykipping, or comment below, and I'm happy to answer anything within reason. Obviously, if there's anything that I don't want to answer, I won't, and I'll just say that in a very polite way, obviously. But it's weird to say I hope you like this video. I hope this video is helpful, at least, so please give it a thumbs up if you found it useful. If you're open to sharing your own experience below, please feel free, because I feel like I just like trauma dumped, and feel a bit bad, but you know, sometimes it's reassuring to hear someone else has been through what you've been through, or something just as emotional and what feels traumatic. And please subscribe to see more from me. My content is usually a lot jollier than this, but this kind of shows that I share real shit, you know? So I hope to see you in the next one. It won't be as heavy as this, but I will see you guys soon. Bye.